Hello, yes. So just recently, today is let me see, what is it? It's the 13th of October, 2023. Just recently, Alex O'Connor put out a video of him interviewing Peter Hitchens. They were supposed to be talking about the existence of God and also legalization of cannabis. They started off on the latter topic. They went for about 40 odd minutes. Peter Hitchens got a bit fed up and he suddenly got up, terminated the interview, accused Alex of various things, getting him there under false pretenses, etc. And we're going to pick up what happens really in the last 4 minutes. And after that, I'm going to discuss what actually went on. So let's go ahead. You won't really see Peter Hitchens. He's out of his chair. You can see Alex, and they're having a bit of a confrontation. So let's just listen to it, see what happens.
Moral right to run this because you think that I've invited you under false pretenses.
You owe me a long letter of apology.
I just don't think that's the case. I just don't think that's the case.
But then I'm not sure you believe in morality, so that wouldn't.
And so I think I do have to run this interview.
You'd have to.
I'm sorry to say, I feel on principle that
principle?
In the way that you feel I've mistreated you by somehow tricking you, even though I've done no such thing. I feel like you're now mistreating me.
You tricked me. You asked me here for an interview on a number of subjects, and it turns into an hour-long interview about drug legalization.
That I told you we'd talk about drugs.
Well, yes, but it's one of many subjects.
And the interview hadn't concluded.
Well, it has now.
Sure, but we were going to move on. Of course we haven't talked about other subjects.
How much time was left in an hour for the other things you were to discuss?
Well, do you remember before we started, and I have it on camera, in fact, that I said, this goes for an hour, but if the conversation flows, if the conversation goes on, it might go on for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
It absolutely didn't.
And you said that was fine.
Absolutely.
And so the plan was...
Absolutely didn't flow.
The plan was an hour...
Didn't flow.
The plan was an hour on drugs.
I've seldom in life had a conversation that's been more of an endurance test. It did not flow. It was constantly halting. Well, I lost my temper with you at one point over your repeating what about alcohol questions.
The plan was an hour.
Flowing.
The plan was an hour on drugs and then an hour on God.
Oh, okay.
That was the idea, and we just didn't make it that far because you're now leaving.
Okay. I mean, honestly, as I say, I have no power over you at all. I can't stop you running it. I think it would be completely wrong for you to run it, but I can't stop you. I think you behaved appallingly. I never ever want to see you again.
Well, we'll have to see what everyone else thinks about that. Well, we'll see what everyone else thinks about that. Sure. We'll see. I'm
sure all your druggy friends will think it's great, but I don't.
I think even your followers have struggled to think that I've mistreated you here. I really think that.
I don't have much in the way of followers in the sense that you mean, but I don't care. I just think you behave really badly, and I don't see why I should put up with it.
Well, it seemed a moment ago when you said that if I run this, you'll be tweeting about it.
Oh, I will. Absolutely. I'll tell people I think you behave atrociously. I saw that you were all nice as pie, saying, please come for this interview, please come for this interview. I changed my plans accordingly, and I offered you times, and then they wouldn't work, and then we finally got to do it, and it turned out to be an hour about drugs in which you didn't listen to any way answer to your question.
As if you think these people are going to agree with you. I don't think they will. I'm sorry to say.
No, people don't agree with you about drugs.
No, not about drugs. About the fact that I've mistreated you somehow here.
Well,
the way you say are you going to tweet about this?
I know that you have.
Well, I suppose that will be all then.
It is. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I don't want to see you again.
Okay,
I'm astonished at your behaviour. I'm genuinely astonished.
I wish you the best, and I wish you the best.
Well, I can't do that because the only thing that put me on even keel with you again is if you apologise for what you've done.
I can't apologise for something that I don't think I've done. I don't think anybody can do that.
I can't.
It would be an ingenuine apology.
What?
It would be an ingenuine apology.
Exactly, so with me anyway.
So I don't think I can apologise, and I think I have to run this interview. And
I just think you've behaved extremely well.
I'm sorry to say that I think that you are completely mistaken about me.
Well, you are.
And I'm sorry it's gone this way. It's a shame, but I don't think there's anything I can say here to change your mind on that front.
No, I think there is. Because you've lured me over here for an hour's conversation after all. What was in it for me?
Luring is...
What was in it for me? Why did I come?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes...
You offered me an interesting conversation.
People come for all kinds of reasons.
You you bore me at that. You're deciding to legalize it.
Well, you have a good day.
There we are. Oh, how to comment on that video. What on earth went wrong? And what really disappointed me is that Alex didn't start with a conversation about the existence of God, because obviously me as an atheist, I haven't got too much interest in the question on the legalization of cannabis. So I was really disappointed that we didn't get to hear a conversation about the existence of God. Really disappointed about that. And I would think that if people are going to do interviews, they should probably start with the most important topic first. And I think that for Alex, because he's built his name around being an atheist, etc., I would have thought that he should have gone for that topic first rather than legalization of cannabis. So the question there is, obviously for Peter Hitchens, he makes his own choices. He seems to be a man with a bit of a temper, and that really he could have actually, I thought, handled that a bit better. Even if he thought that he accused Alex effectively of not doing his research before the conversation, and also going back over ground that Peter Hitchens had already rebutted him and made certain points, and he accused Alex of not listening to him. He attacked his intellectual abilities, and so things were not going very well in that sense. And I must admit, they did spend a long time for the ground that they covered. It wasn't an hour on the topic of drugs. It was actually, well, if you deduct the time that Alex spent introducing Peter Hitchens, I suppose it was more like about 38 minutes. Something really irritated Peter Hitchens, and he just snapped emotionally. It's a big thing to cut an interview short, and I'm really surprised that he didn't say to him, look, Alex, I think we've covered enough ground. I know it's you're hosting this, but do you think that we could move on to discussion about the existence of God? Because I was really interested in it, and I think that I've made all the points that I can about my view on the legalization of cannabis. We've gone back and forth on that. We obviously disagree. Can we leave that topic alone now, and can we move on? Because I'm starting to feel a bit weary about it. And if we spend too much more time on drugs, I might not want to talk about God at all. And then Alex could then have taken that as a cue and said, yeah, that's fine. I'm sure that he would have gone along with that. But Peter Hitchens just seemed to lose his head, got very emotional. He's capable of getting really angry. I saw the whole thing, of course, and I recommend you watch the whole thing. You saw, you could hear the inflection in his voice, how angry he was. I think you've behaved appallingly. He was really furious. This is a man in a rage. I just don't have the abilities to psychoanalyze it. And, some of you guys out there are probably better psychologists than I am. Why would he do that? Well, he obviously wasn't happy. And Alex did say that he did tell him beforehand, we will be talking about drugs first. And I didn't think that he went entirely excessively too far. Peter Hitchens accused him of being, a drugs legalization propagandist, he called him. Well, I mean, to an extent, for what we're interested in, for the positions we're taking and fighting for on the internet, we're all propagandists in that sense. I suppose that I'm an anti-religion propagandist because that's the point of view that I promote. So, and I suppose Peter Hitchens is an anti-legalization propagandist. So I didn't really quite get his point there. Okay, Alex did bring back one or two arguments, at least twice. The argument that you've got cannabis, you've got alcohol, which causes far more problems, demonstrably so, in society than cannabis. So if we're going to get rid of cannabis, we should get rid of alcohol. And I think Peter Hitchens knocked that on the head. He rebutted that successfully twice. He shouldn't have had to rebut it a second time, which I think is perfectly reasonable to say that just because we've got a problem. He did say, I've got a problem with alcohol too. And yes, alcohol is causing enormous problems in society. And he accused the previous government's, Thatcher's government, and he said that Blair's government completed the job in terms of relaxing licensing laws, etc., so that pubs are open longer. And now we've got even bigger problems with alcohol. So yeah, he would want more regulation. But I suppose the argument comes down to that if you've got two ills in society, just because you can't legislate against one, or you won't legislate against one, doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't legislate against the other. How many toxic recreational substances must we have in society? Just because we've got one doesn't mean to say that we should have lots of others too. We should regulate where we can. I can absolutely sympathize with that. I've heard this argument with smoking, with passive smoking in the early days when it was being banned in pubs and restaurants, etc. People were saying, well, we've got cars that produce fumes, so if you're going to ban smoking in pubs and bars, then you'll have to ban all the cars. There's one problem there. There's one problem. We all benefit from cars and vehicles. Vehicles do something useful for all of us. There's none of us that haven't at some time used a vehicle or benefited from a bus, various forms of transport. We all benefit from that. And the transport is something which is useful. It actually keeps the economy going and has got so many uses. And yes, the fumes are bad, but we're legislating, we're going for green energy, etc. We're trying to do something about it. But in any case, just because we've done nothing about that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't stop people dying of lung cancer when people are recreationally smoking cigarettes in pubs and bars. So I think that Alex's alcohol argument is sort of similar to that and has got similar flaws. So you may disagree with that. But setting that aside, because it's not my thing, I don't want to get into that debate. I don't really think that Alex misled Peter Hitchens. I think that Peter Hitchens just lost his nerve, lost his temper. I can't explain it. Honestly, it's just one of those unpredictable things that happens sometimes. Something about Alex really irritated. I mean, he went out, as you heard him saying, I don't like you. I think you behaved appallingly. I never want to see you again. And he was absolutely furious in a rage. It's beyond my abilities to account for that. Sometimes human behavior can't be accounted for. Yeah, he said he'd bicycled across London apparently to Alex's accommodation, and he was angry about that as well. Well, at least he got good exercise out of it, didn't he? Yeah, let me just think before I sign off, because I'm about to sign off. I'd like to ask you, of course, your opinion. I've provided my commentary. Alex didn't feel he had anything to apologize for. He didn't apologize. I don't really think he had anything to apologize for. He did actually try to get Peter Hitchens back in his chair and say, look, we can move on to God now if you feel so, if you feel that way about it. And, he apologized that if the conversation didn't go the way he expected, he apologized for that. But he didn't apologize for the main thing was that he somehow misled and was deceptive. And he stood his ground there, which I thought Alex dealt with that fairly professionally. He kept his cool. He kept his calm. He was back in his chair. He was absolutely defensive. I think that he was afraid. And actually, I could sense that. And if Peter Hitchens was raging at my flat, I'd probably be afraid as well. Yeah, okay, so that's it really. I've got no further commentary. I'm just really disappointed that they didn't talk about the existence of God, because that's what I was looking forward to. Okay, that's all for now. Let me know your thoughts. Goodbye.